When we think of the Founding Fathers, most Americans imagine a group of virtuous men heroes who risked everything to secure freedom and independence. Figures like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams are celebrated in history books, on coins, and in monuments across the country. But beneath the iconic portraits and the stories of noble sacrifice lies a much more complicated truth. The reality of who these men were and the society they lived in is often far messier than the legends suggest. The term Founding Fathers refers to the key leaders who played a major role in the American Revolution and in the creation of the United States Constitution. These men shaped the ideals that form the backbone of American democracy. They spoke of liberty, equality, and justice, and yet many of them were deeply entrenched in the very systems of oppression they claimed to oppose. For example, Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, famously declared that all men are created equal. Yet, Jefferson owned hundreds of enslaved people throughout his life, benefiting economically from a system that denied basic human rights to Black Americans. This contradiction is one of the central ironies in the history of the American Revolution. Similarly, George Washington, often hailed as the father of the nation, was not only a revolutionary leader, but also a wealthy plantation owner who depended on slave labor. While he eventually freed his slaves in his will, during his lifetime he profited from their labor and maintained a strict social hierarchy on his estates. Even Benjamin Franklin, a man celebrated for his ingenuity and vision, only gradually came to oppose slavery late in life, after decades of complicity. These examples raise difficult questions. How do we reconcile the ideals these men championed with the actions they took? Can we admire their achievements while acknowledging their moral failings? Another hidden truth about the Founding Fathers is the role of privilege and exclusion in their vision of America. The Constitution they drafted created a government of the people by the people. Yet initially, the definition of people was very narrow. Women, indigenous peoples, enslaved Africans, and non-landowning men were largely excluded from political power. Voting rights were limited, and social hierarchies were deeply entrenched. In many ways, the freedoms celebrated in early American history applied primarily to wealthy white men. The Founding Fathers also navigated a world of political compromise and self-interest. The debates that shaped the Constitution were not purely idealistic. They were battles over power, influence, and control. The famous compromise that allowed slavery to persist, known as the Three-Fifths Compromise, counted enslaved people as 3/5 of a person for purposes of congressional representation. This decision reveals how deeply political considerations were intertwined with the continuation of human bondage, even as the nation claimed to champion liberty. Yet, it's important to recognize that the Founding Fathers were products of their time. Their worldview reflected the norms, prejudices, and economic realities of the 18th century. Many were brilliant thinkers who advanced ideas about governance, science, and diplomacy that remain influential today. They created a system of checks and balances designed to prevent tyranny, and they envisioned a nation where power would be limited by law. These contributions cannot be ignored, even as we critically examine their shortcomings. Part of the hidden truth is also the tension between public image and private life. George Washington carefully cultivated the image of a virtuous, stoic leader, while privately managing complex financial affairs and human relationships on his estates. Thomas Jefferson's private letters reveal a more complicated man than the idealized figure in textbooks, someone capable of brilliance, but also deeply flawed. Understanding these complexities allows us to see history in shades of gray rather than black and white, and it challenges the simplistic narratives we often hear. Furthermore, the Founding Fathers' actions set the stage for ongoing debates in America about equality, justice, and democracy. The compromises they made on slavery, representation, and citizenship created structural issues that would later explode into conflict, including the Civil War. Recognizing the contradictions in their lives helps explain why the promises of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution took so long to be extended to all Americans. The struggle for civil rights, gender equality, and social justice can be seen as a continuation of debates first sparked in the halls of Philadelphia and the homes of early American leaders. In modern times, Americans are increasingly questioning the way history is taught and celebrated. Monuments, statues, and holidays commemorate the Founding Fathers, but the deeper complexities of their lives are often omitted. Historians, educators, and activists argue that we need a more honest reckoning with the past, one that acknowledges both achievements and failings. By confronting these truths, we can gain a more complete understanding of American history and the challenges that remain. So, what can we take away from the hidden truth about the Founding Fathers? First, history is never simple. The men who shaped the United States were extraordinary in some ways, deeply flawed in others, and profoundly human in all aspects. Second, understanding their contradictions helps us see the ongoing struggle for freedom and equality as part of a larger historical continuum. And finally, reflecting on the past encourages us to think critically about the present and the kind of society we want to build for the future. In the end, the story of the Founding Fathers is not just about legendary figures and heroic deeds. It's about ideals tested against the realities of human nature, ambition, and societal limitations. By learning the full truth, Americans can celebrate the vision of liberty while also recognizing the work that remains to achieve it for all. History, in this sense, becomes not just a record of what was, but a guide for what can be.